Today's video is going to be a little bit different than my typical random whatever I'm doing that day I'm going to take a video of. I was approached by the guys at Lakeland Farm and Ranch. They are out in Manitoba, and they're the first company that's asked me to actually review a product, so I'm pretty blown away. A review is, quite honestly, you throw it in the middle of your life, in the middle of your farm, in the middle of the system that you currently have. And that is honestly the best way to judge, to see if it will work for you. And for me, like the product itself, I will give it a full review at the end of this video. I gave it 5 tries. So we did it 5 different ways in five different groups that I had ready. So I wanted to get a good feel for basically the smallest animal I'd have and the biggest animal I'd have, and be able to compare all of them so you'd have a full review. I guess I forgot to mention, the guys at Lakeland reached out to me, but this review is completely on my own accord. I'm not getting paid to do it. I do not get the machine. If I like it, I can buy it like anybody else, but most definitely this is not a paid thing. I'm really just happy to use it for content and for information value for you guys, but I thought I'd better just make that perfectly clear right off the start for you guys. Also, I am not going to make you guys wait to the very end to know the epic surprise. I'm going to tell you right now, but I want you to watch the video still. Lakeland wants to give one of these things away to a lucky viewer, so please share the video to anyone you know that's a sheep farmer. We as sheep farmers are infamous for not spending money on some good equipment, so please enter the contest. I will have all the information at the end of the video. Share the video, share it on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else you want to share it. Okay, here we go with the review. So the new Lakeland DST Trim Chute here is on the right. My old system's there on the left. Right away, it is a bigger unit, bigger tires. Both sides squeeze, and very, very easy to go in and out there. You just press on those levers to release, and then you just squeeze and it locks. On the back, there's a real nice sliding door. And on the front of the machine is a locking headgate mechanism. It's extremely easy to move. I loved that about this machine. My old machine is really heavy, hard on my back to move. This one just moves like a dream, and likely the big tires make a big difference, and maybe the location of where those tires are. Tires are pretty easy to get off. It's just a nice little cotter pin, comes off, slide the tires off. And it does have a lever in the front that you can move it with, and it is easy to remove as well. It aligns up with my system really, really well. The pins and the rods attach really nicely. The only thing that's missing that I use on my old one is that same function on the front, because I like to have gates going out of the front as well to direct the ewes which way I want them to go. But after all, it didn't really make a big difference. We made it work. But that was the one thing that I noticed right away that it was missing that my old one had. The door at the back is a bit different than my other one. It is just a door that moves horizontally from side to side. My other one is just an actual hinged door. So I didn't think I would like that part, but it ended up being one of my favorite things about the machine. Okay, day 1. These ewes were born last March, so they're just ewe lambs, and they were freshly shorn, so they were quite little, quite spunky. They did not like going in that head gate. It did take a lot of convincing. But once I got in, it wasn't too bad. I used it on these ewe lambs on this particular day to do some vaccinations. I really just wanted to use the locking head gate mechanism to see if they wouldn't move very much, and that the vaccinations would be a little easier than when I just did it freehand in the chute. It was pretty good for that. It wasn't too bad if you could get them in the locking head gate, but it's also their first time even really being handled, so you have to kind of keep that in mind too. Some of them went right in, and it was really quite lovely. Wasn't too bad doing a vaccination this way. They didn't move as much, and I was able to get the skin. These vaccinations have to be done sub-Q. So here's a ewe here that was really struggling, frustrating me. They want to put their head down and not up, and I did make an adjustment, I think, on the last day, and it made a big difference, so stay tuned for that. So here we are with some bigger ewes. These ewes are probably in and around anywhere from a year and a half to almost 2 years old now, because they were my 2017 lambs, fully wooled. Again, they just are skittish of where to put their head in on that headlock gate. They fit a little bit better in this trim chute. The ones that were freshly shorn, they ended up really slipping around a lot. It wasn't narrow enough. And I did call Lakeland about it. They sent me some pads to make that trim chute a little bit narrower. So I found these ewes, they didn't move near as much, so I liked it a lot better for ewes with some wool on it. But again, they're a smaller framed ewe, so they're not the big mature ewes yet. A very nice turn system on this machine. That headlocking gate, I did have some issues with it until I figured out you just have to open it up wide enough so it stays open. It worked a lot better today, but their legs keep coming out here. When you're hoof trimming the front feet, you actually have to do it from the front. They still are going in really, really well, and I wasn't sure if they would, and I still think it's because it's a really nice grippy floor. So I love the floor. I love this gate. The squeezy part, I feel like it's a little bit awkward. I can get it pretty tight, but then those last few nudges, I have a hard time gripping it and pulling it tight enough. But I would like to try it with bigger ewes, and I would like to try it with the same ewes I just did with those pads and see if it makes a difference. So Lakeland did ship me these pads, and really easy to install. I did find it a little bit challenging, I don't know if it's just me, but to line up the holes in that mesh. It was a bit challenging. I ended up, most of the time I put these in and out, I ended up just using like 2 holes out of the 4, because it was just, especially with one person, it was good because I had Carissa today, but I found with one person it's hard to keep that up and find the hole at the same time. But other than that, very lightweight, pretty easy to install for sure. Just little wing nuts that you connect.
I do like that they're winged.
Oh, that's nice. You're laughing at me. You're laughing at me. Okay, so we got these on, and now the ewes don't fit at all. They won't even get in it. So now I have to take one off. Again, these are these 2017 fully wooled ewes that I experimented with on this particular day with a minor concussion. And yeah, they were too big for having both pads in. Having both pads in actually does narrow it up a lot, so I'm thinking it'll work really well with those freshly shorn smaller ewe lambs. But definitely with these ewes, it was too tight, so they wouldn't go in. But the one seemed to be okay, at least for a little bit. Again, like I was saying, when you have that locking head gate, they seem to push so far to the front that you end up having to trim the hooves in front of the machine instead of, you know, in the middle where you stand. Day 3 with my machine. We ended up taking the pads out again. I don't know if these ewes were a bit bigger, but they were getting about to here in the machine and then dropping to their knees thinking that they were too fat to get the rest of the way. It was becoming very annoying. It's taking a lot longer than it took yesterday, so we took the pads right out. This locking head gate, I'm still on the fence about. We tried a couple just free, so they weren't in the head locking gate. I didn't find it as bad, but Carissa was doing the front feet And I'm just finding them, they're slipping down a little bit. We're gonna give it another shot and see how we make out. We are gonna try running mature ewes through this because they're a little bit bigger. So we have one girl in here already. We're gonna see how that works. So the mature ewes, a whole lot like the other ones. Again, very skittish of that locking head gate. That, and they're fully wooled, so they're just a big animal. In comparison, my old unit 2, very, very hard to get a full-grown mature ewe fully wooled through it. They just think they're too fat, and it's just in their head. And if the ewes behind them see the one in there acting up like this, they all do the same thing, and that's just sheep behavior. The good thing about this machine, it's got quite a few adjustments on that locking head gate, so you can make it narrower or wider. I think here I made it wider. I almost think I gave up on this one because I was going to cry. I did give up on that one. I've kind of forgot. I think I blocked it out of my memory. So this is a good example of trimming feet without using the locking head gate. What they do, instead of pushing to the front now, they push right to the back. They get their feet jammed up against the door. She was kicking like crazy. I was likely in a bad mood because I couldn't get her in, and they sensed that, and that's never good. You almost should just walk away from your job for a bit and cool off because they sense it, and then they just are annoying. So this second one, same thing. I call it the fat complex. Partly that, and partly she saw the first one act like this, and this is what they do. And I tell you, have to get behind and push, and I try some trickery. I try to open up the gate so they think that they are escaping, and that's just sheep behavior 101. If you make it their idea, it sometimes works. In this case, I got her halfway in, and then persuaded the back end to come in. But doing a few ewes this way is not fun. So my last day, I finally made this adjustment. Instead of adjusting the top, there are bolts on the bottom. And I grabbed a couple half-inch wrenches, and I widened the bottom ones instead of the top ones because they want to put their head down and not up. And bingo, something that I thought of actually worked. They went right in when I did that adjustment. These are those ewes I started with. I wanted to finish with the ewes I started with that had so much problem without the pads in it. The first one I did again with no pads, and she was actually just a nice quiet ewe, so it wasn't really a good example of that. But I think after that I did add the pads just so you guys could see. So again, here I am by myself putting these pads in. It was a lot harder. I really missed Carissa this day because it was hard to line it up and put the wing nuts in. Again, they went in a lot nicer. The pads did tighten it up a lot. I just started with one to make sure they go in and just to see if they would kick a little bit less. So this was a good example of how much they can kick if they've got enough movement, if they're not restrained enough. A lot of them did this. They were pretty kicky. Again, young ewe lambs, never been in this before. The older they are, the less crazy they are, for sure. So here I actually put the second pad in just to show you guys what it's like with 2 pads in with freshly shorn ewes. And it worked really well. They squeezed pretty tight. But as you can see, they still kicked. And likely that dog wasn't helping the situation. Okay, so I had some good days I had some not so good days. From the very get-go, I noticed that the machine was quite a bit bigger than my old one. I actually kind of liked that because I found the sheep moved into it easier. Like, there was never any hesitation. They kind of just went until they got their fat complex, which they did with the other machine too. They think they're too big when they're fully wooled, and they stop and they drop to their knees and they will not move. It is often why I shear now before I hoof trim, because if they have it in their head they won't go in, they won't. If the first one struggles to go in, all the rest of them will do the exact same thing because they see it. They see it, they mimic it. The things I really love about it, I loved the back gate and I loved the floor. I loved the way it turned. It turns so smooth and easy. My old ones it's really heavy to turn. So I did like those three things about it. The head locking portion of it is a love-hate relationship. I love it when the animals just go right into it. But if they've decided that they do not want to go in that hole, you cannot convince them to find that hole. I did make a little bit of an adjustment. All the adjustments can be made at the top with a really easy cotter pin that you pull out and you can adjust and push it back in. But what I found is a sheep doesn't want to lift her head up into a hole. She wants to escape, so she is looking down. So what I did, it's got some bolts at the bottom. I think it's a 1/2 inch wrench, took the 1/2 inch wrench, undid the bolts, and thank goodness there's adjustments there, and I adjusted them open a notch. And right away they found it. So that helped a lot with the head locking gate, is to make the bottom more wide and the top more narrow. The biggest issue I had with it is I'm not sure if I'm getting it squeezed tight enough. And if you don't get it squeezed tight enough, when you turn it upside down, I feel like those animals fall a little bit. Other than that, I really liked the machine. If it was the first one I had, I would 150% love it, I'm sure, because I had nothing to compare it to. The problem is I'm used to my old one, and I am such a creature of habit. I thank the guys at Lakeland. They've been so patient. I was supposed to have this video cranked out early December, but lambing happened. We were trying to get corn off, and then Christmas happened, but they've been so understanding. So I'd like to thank Johnny and the marketing crew there for letting me do this. I hope it helps everybody that is looking at machinery. Now, this company is very well known for customer service. Johnny made a point for me to tell you guys that they've sold a ton of these units this year. That's why he was really excited for me to use it. But yeah, just do your research, but I would strongly recommend visiting a farm that has the stuff that you want and see what the farmer likes or doesn't like on it. Give these guys an email or visit their website, see what they're all about. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I can't believe you guys made it through my longest vlog ever. And if you did, you are rewarded because there's a contest. Lakeland wanted to team up and actually do a giveaway. So make sure you click on the link on the description below the video, or check out the website dstgiveaway.com. Sign up and win this cool little hoof trimmer. Thanks, guys.